Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we have a beer that I think will be very interesting. This is going to be my first Taiwanese craft beer review for you on the channel in over 5 years. The last one that I reviewed from Taiwan was a beer from Le Blé d'Or, which was a sort of honey lager, and it was quite nice as well, I have to say. But since then the Taiwanese craft beer scene has, kind of exploded a little bit. There's about 20 or so craft breweries now dotted around the island, and I managed to pick this beer up when I was in HK Brewcraft on Hong Kong Island. There was about 4 beers there, but this is the one that they recommended to me. So for this review we are going to have a look at my first beer from Taihu Brewing, or from Taipei, and this one is the Long Island Iced Beer. So from what they told me, this is a beer that doesn't really fit into any particular style category. It's kind of like a cocktail beer or something, they were saying, but it's a bit of a beast and comes in at 9.99% ABV. They did have an IPA and a double IPA and things like that when I was there. I was tempted to get the double IPA, but they insisted that this was the one that I got for my first Taiwanese beer review in quite a long time. So really curious to see how this one turns out. It's a very interesting company as well, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one. I really do need to get back to Taiwan and go around the island again and try some of the different craft beers. Big shout out of course to my friend Geneva Huang Yi from Taipei as well. I need to get back and visit her at some point. So yeah, big shout out to all of you guys on the island of Taiwan. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Taihu Brewing. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, of course. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Taiwanese beers that I've reviewed for you. Hopefully I can add to that in the fairly near future, because this is only the second beer I'm reviewing for you from Taiwan. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Taihu Brewing then. So Taihu Brewing are based in Taipei, and they were founded back in 2013 by a group of 5 craft beer loving friends. So 3 of the founders are Taiwanese American. This is Duke Wu, Peter Wang and Rob Babbage. All 5 of the founders, so those were the only 3 that I was able to find the names for, but all of the original 5 founders apparently met at school, and they were big fans of craft beer, and they saw the trend taking off in Asia and really wanted to be a part of that. But for a long time the Taiwanese beer market was dominated by Taiwan beer, which is brewed by a state monopoly, but the alcohol industry started to open up to the public back in 2002 after Taiwan joined the World Trade Organization. Apparently it's also prohibited in Taiwan for a brewery to open up in what they call an officially non-commercial space, and so most of the breweries have the problem of being located far away from people. They're located on the outer edges of the city, so you can't have a brew pub in Taiwan as it stands currently. This is July 2019 when I'm filming this review. But the head brewer at Taihu is Winnie Su Jo Wei, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But she came from a background in studying agriculture and economics, and she worked as a bartender at Gordon Bier's, an American chain restaurant in Taipei, which in 2007 sent her to the US to study brewing with the idea that she would brew the beers for the company. After 4 years, Winnie left the job in 2011 to study for her International Brewer's Certificate in Berlin, where she befriended Lang Jinfu, who was sponsored by Le Blé d'Or, the brewery that I mentioned at the start of the video, who I reviewed my first Taiwanese craft beer from. And after this she went on to be the head of operations and research and development, and she spent 2 years in this job. Apparently she didn't enjoy really working in the business side of things so much, and she was looking to brew again, and she travelled to the US before coming back to Taiwan. Upon returning to Taiwan, she met the partners of the company, having been aware of their plans, and they invited her to come on board, and she joined the company in May of 2015. But now she runs a brew team of 14 people, apparently 10 of whom are women, which is one of the biggest female brew teams in the world from what I understand, which is really cool actually, because brewing is generally quite male dominated, so really cool to find a female-dominated brew team, especially in Taiwan of all places, and they've got their brewery in Jinji now, which is in New Taipei, which, if I remember correctly, is a little bit kind of to the northeast-ish of Taipei itself. But they opened their first bar, which is called Chojinshi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, once again, in the eastern district of Taipei, and they apparently didn't signpost the tap room and made sure that there was no English notification so that it would entice local customers to come in, and they've had great success with this. Initially they only served international craft beers, but then they started selling their own beers around 2015. As of July 2019, according to Untappd, they've produced around 144 different varieties of beer. They've got 5 tap rooms around Taipei. There's one in Chuoyinshi Dan, the Taihu Airstream, there's the Chuoyinshi Landmark, the Taihu Lab, which is the research and development branch, and they've also got their Driftwood restaurant as well. But they apparently are thinking to expand and open a tap room in Tokyo over in Japan as well as expanding into mainland China and entering some markets in the US, such as San Francisco, New York and LA as well. So the name Taihu apparently comes from 2 parts. So Tai, of course, is Taiwan. A lot of the cities you'll find in Taiwan have Tai something. So you've got Taichung, which is kind of sort of Taiwan West, if I remember correctly. You've got Tainan, which is on the right, on the eastern side, which means basically Taiwan East, and Hu comes from tiger, so the brewery symbol is a tiger under a canopy of hops, and I will show you that on the can in a little bit. But that's all the information I was really able to find out about Taihu Brewery. It's really cool to be able to review my my first Taiwanese craft beer in about 5 years for you on the channel, so I really hope that this is a good one. And it's very cool, like I said, to find a brewery that is where the brew team is predominantly women. You don't come across that very often. In fact, the only other brewery I can think of, or the other 2 breweries I can think of that are predominantly female brewers would be, of course, there's Jessica Heidrich, who is here in Sweden. She's brewing up near Stockholm, and of course you've got Wuha Brewery from back home in Scotland, and I think the brewer at Amar Brewkus as well. She's from Brazil actually, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, there's a couple of female brewers around. There's probably more that aren't coming into my mind at the moment, but really cool to find a female-dominated brewery, and to find that in Taiwan of all places is a little bit crazy, so big thumbs up to the guys for that. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Taihu Brewing for the moment. That's all the information I was able to find on them. So if you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website, and of course you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and things like that too. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on the can. The artwork on this one, of course, is a little bit different compared to the other ones that you're going to get, because this is, from what I gathered, as I say, this is a kind of cocktail beer. But you can see, I'm not sure how well you're going to see that. I'll try and tip it so you see it in the light. But there is the tiger, the Taihu tiger on the side of the can there. You can see the hop flowers at the top and the nice tiger just sitting underneath. But it comes in at 9.9% this beer. It's a half-litre can. It also gives you some drinking instructions on the side here. It tells you to add a little bit of ice to this one, so I'll drink the beer normally at the start, and then we'll add a little bit of ice to it later on and see how we get on. So yeah, without further ado, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. So this one on Untappd is just simply listed as a 9.9% strong ale. Like I said, I bought this beer at HK Brewcraft in Hong Kong, on Hong Kong Island, and they were pretty adamant that I should buy this one out of the beers that were there. They did have a double IPA and a couple of other things. As I mentioned to you, they've produced around 145 different kinds of beer. We'll leave it at that for the moment, and we'll leave the rest of it in the can. Of course, this beer, as you're probably guessing from the name, is based on the Long Island iced tea cocktail. So as you can see with this one, it's poured a nice kind of hazy golden colour, almost the same colour as like a Czech Letzak or Svetli, something like that, kind of like a Pilsner colour beer, this one, or even a Munich Helles, somewhere in that kind of region. It's got a little bit of haze to it, but it is predominantly clear. So yeah, as I say, this is a beer that does not fit into style categories, so you can't really compare this one to anything. The colour, of course, though, as I said, is similar to like a Pilsner or a Svetli or a Letzak from the Czech Republic, or a Munich Helles lager, this one, of course. So yeah, kind of interesting that actually to notice, to see what this beer looks like. So let's take a look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this one then. So straight away with this one, it does have a big kind of tea note to it. You're going to notice that straight away. In Asia, they absolutely love tea. I've never been a great fan of tea, in honesty. I always felt that it didn't taste of too much, but in fairness, once I met my girlfriend over in Japan, I really started to get into Japanese green tea, the matcha tea. When it's cold, I really quite like it. So I'm interested to see how it comes out into this. And the Long Island iced tea is a cocktail that is, I think, can enjoy a couple of them, to be honest. I mean, I quite like White Russians, and I also like mojitos and stuff like that. So, you know, the Long Island iced tea is one that I will have on occasion. I don't drink cocktails very much. I don't drink too much outside of my beer reviews and the videos and stuff that I do for you guys. But, yeah, this is an interesting aroma, this one. So underneath it's a little bit bready. There is a little bit of a biscuity note into this one in my mind. And that whole thing is kind of infused with tea. You can definitely pick out a sort of lemony sharpness to this one, which is interesting. And I want to say there is just a little touch of a slightly grassy, hoppy kind of quality to this beer as well. So yeah, to me this smells like a big oily, almost slightly sour beer. I don't know if it's a sour beer right enough, and that's one of the really kind of curious things about that. But yeah, nice sharp sort of lemony citricy qualities to it. Almost kind of sour beer in that sense. But yeah, a little bit of a caramelly, biscuity note to it, a little touch of breadiness, and as I said, some kind of grassy, hoppy qualities in there as well. So, you know, a really unusual aroma, this one, but very, very kind of reminiscent of the Long Island iced tea cocktail. And I think this is definitely going to be one of the more unusual beers that I've reviewed for you in the 1800 beers that we've done so far on the channel. So yeah, let's just have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. So this one is the Long Island Iced Beer, coming in at 9.99% from Taihu Brewing in Taipei in Taiwan. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, Skål, Gambe. Yeah, that is really pretty nice, I have to say. I don't even know what to compare this to, but it's a really, really pretty solid beer, I have to say. Big thumbs up to Taihu for this one. I've only taken one sip of it, but I can tell you straight away, that is really pretty bloody nice. It did recommend on the can that we put some ice in this, so I'll do a tasting of it without the ice, then we'll stick some of the ice in it and just see, you know, if you just water it down a little bit, see how that kind of comes across. I tell you something, at 10% it's dangerously drinkable, but then again, most cocktails probably are a bit more than that in honesty, so this is probably a little bit better for your liver than a regular cocktail is. But yeah, the thing with this beer, I was wondering if this might be a bit of a sour beer, but really it's actually a kind of sweeter type thing. For me, in the middle of your palate you're getting a nice sort of bready quality, that blankets the middle of your tongue. As you go further into the aftertaste, it really starts to sweeten up a little bit. There is a sort of sweet caramelly quality to this one. It becomes a little bit more biscuity, almost like McVitie's digestives. In the middle of your palate too, which is kind of interesting. The sweeter caramel, the more oily caramel is in the very centre of your tongue, and as you come further out from that a little bit, that's where you get the slightly more biscuity, syrupy type caramel. It almost reminds me of like Honey Loops actually, from the cereal that I used to eat when I was quite young. Almost like Honey Cheerios actually is probably another good way to describe this beer. So the way that the malt base works in this one is really nice. There is a little touch of a kind of slightly tea-ish flavour. You can almost feel as if that whole thing that I've just described to you is just infused a little bit with a slightly kind of tea quality, if you like. I can't remember if they actually put tea in Long Island iced tea. They must do. But to me, this one comes across really nicely. They've maybe put a little bit of tea flavour essence in this one or something like that, kind of similar to what Omnipollo here in Sweden do actually. But this is a really, really nice beer. The malt base in this one works together really quite nicely. But as I say, I was expecting perhaps a little sour beer in this one, but it really isn't a sour beer at all. But yeah, I do like how this one goes together. I was picking up in the aroma a kind of hoppy presence to this beer, but there really is not very much at all. There might be just a little touch of a hoppy quality to this one, but then again, with some of the tripels and stuff that you get from Belgium, some of them don't use hops in their beer. And for me, if there is any hoppy quality, there's a little tiny bit of earthiness on the back corners of the palate, and as you come further forward from that, there's a little bit of floral quality on the front corners of the palate, but then round the very front curve of the tongue, it's lighter and grassy. There is a tiny, tiny little bit of a hoppy presence in there, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's almost like a kind of placebo effect, to be honest with you. There's very, very little hoppy quality in this beer, but there are just a few flavours on the edge of the tongue there. Behind the front curve of the palate, of course, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where some of those juicy fruity esters start to come out of the beer. And for me, this one is kind of a straight up sort of lemony quality, but it's quite an oily lemon. It's not too sharp, if you like. It's just got that nice grassy, lemony, citrusy kind of quality coming out of the beer, which is really nice. Yeah. There is something else in there that I'm kind of struggling to describe actually. It does have that really nice kind of juicy lemony quality. It's almost a little bit like a kind of lemon cordial or something, you know, these diluting juices, you get a lemon lime cordial. It is something a little bit like that actually, this beer. So this is a really, really unusual one, to be honest with you, but it really does go together very well. I mean, the only thing I can say about this beer is just try it for yourself and see what you think. So what I'm going to do now is they recommended that you put a little bit in a glass with ice, so I'm going to try that and just see if that changes it at all. So we'll do a little bit in here too and see how that kind of turns out. So yeah. And actually, when you do drink it with a little bit of that ice in there and some cold water, it does just feel that little bit more crisp, if you like. So we should probably move to the mouthfeel actually at this point. So if you drink this beer just on its own, it's quite a big oily beer. It's quite full-bodied in that sense, and there's not much in the way of carbonation to this one. It's very smooth, very oily, this beer. Virtually no hoppy bitterness to this one. You'll be lucky if you get about 5 IBUs out of this beer. The malt base is kind of lovely and sweet and quite oily in that sense, and there's a little bit of a sharper kind of dryness coming out of this beer as well. So I mean, overall, this is a really, really nice one. In that sense, it's really nice when it's kind of straight up like that, but when you add the ice to it, it just does become that little bit more crisp in my mind. And I mean, I took this one straight out the fridge, which I think was down at about 4-5 degrees, so it will be pretty, you know, to drink it straight is pretty good, but if you put the actual ice in with it, it does thin out the body a bit. It takes it down to being quite mid-bodied, and then you just get that little bit more crispness out of it. The carbonation's actually a little bit more active in it when you add the ice as well, which is quite interesting. So that's a little bit of surface chemistry for you in there. The carbon dioxide bubbles kind of aggregating, if you like, congregating on the surface of the ice there. So that's kind of interesting, something I would never have thought about actually. So yeah, overall, if we wind up this review just now, this is just a really, really quite unusual beer. I'm very glad that I was able to try this. It's really cool to review something that's quite so unusual for my first Taiwanese beer review in 5 years. This is definitely one of the more random beers that I've reviewed in my time, and yeah, so have a go at this beer for yourself and just see what you think. It's a little bit more big and oily if you just drink it straight up. If you drink it neat, I should say, and if you add a little bit of ice to it, it does become that little bit more crisp. So yeah, have a go at this one for yourself and just see what you think. Hopefully I can review more beers from Taihu Brewing in the fairly near future. Like I said at the start of the video, I really need to get back there and visit some of the other craft breweries around the island. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Long Island Ice Beer, a very, very unusual beer, but a really nicely done one. So a big thumbs up to the guys at Taihu Brewing for this, and hopefully for my next review from these guys, I can try like an IPA or an imperial stout or something like that and just see how they do at the more kind of straight up beer styles, if you like. But I really hope I can add more Taiwanese beers for you to the channel over the next little while. But thank you again for watching my beer reviews. As always, please let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Taihu Brewing. If you are watching from Taiwan, do give me some other Taiwanese brewery recommendations. I found a good article that listed a good couple of them there, so I will try and see if I can get a hold of some of these. But yeah, this has been really awesome to review. Thank you again for watching my reviews. Make sure you check out my social media. Do please consider subscribing to the channel, and I will catch you guys very soon. This is the Long Island Iced Beer from Taihu Brewing in Taipei in Taiwan. Until the next time, it's Slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Slanja, Skull, Gambe, make sure you try this beer. Cheers.